Peace and blessings to all of my awesome audience members. I'm so grateful that you could join me again for this awesome show, this podcast from the Eagle's View. Just a reminder, when we're talking about the Eagle's View, we're talking about the perspective of the eagle. We're using this majestic bird, this majestic creature created by the Most High God, just to describe some characteristics and attributes that we human beings should have, like number one, obviously vision, the ability to have insight and foresight. Again, the ability to see yourself way beyond your current situation. Your predicament does not define who you are. Your stumbling block should be a stepping stone to greater success. In other words, when you experience a setback, don't take a step back. Know beyond the shadow of a doubt by faith that your Creator is working on your comeback, and your latter days shall be greater than your former. This is your host, Fidel Donaldson, aka the Bald Eagle. So excited to be with you on this broadcast from the Eagle's View, from the Eagle's perspective. Now, I'm so excited about today's show because I want to talk to you about this phenomenal book that the Most High has, I don't say I've written it, that He has written it through me, and the impact that it's having in the lives of men, even women who read it. And I want to go back to the beginning, how I got the vision for this I call it a masterpiece, published by Writers Incarcerated Publishing House. I want to tell you, 2019, I was on the island of Jamaica in a place called Hatfield. I was getting ready to minister under a tent, and I noticed several of the men, more so the younger men, was looking a little standoffish and aloof. I'm gonna use some Jamaican, some patois in this. We call it them are Kimbo and pose. In other words, they were like just standing back, kind of like posing, like what's up? What you got to tell us? And I remember specifically the Ruach, the Spirit, saying to me, tell them your testimony. Tell them where I brought you from, where your Creator brought you from, before you go into the message. I knew I had a good message for this messed age, but I could tell they were kind of had a sense that they were thinking like, oh, just another preacher coming in. So I said, okay, let me be obedient and tell them. So I began to tell them about my experience of a time in my life, a very dark period, when I was locked up in a small cell in an English prison, about 22 to 23 hours a day. One of those cells had no toilet in there. I had reached a low point, set across the Atlantic Ocean, separated from wife and children. One of the low points in life, right? And I began to share with them that, when my sentence was over, I was deported and sent back to the United States of America. And I noticed a difference, my brothers and sisters. Once I shared what is commonly referred to as my testimony, once I told them a snippet, a synopsis of my life story, some of those same individuals, those same men who were just standing and kind of staring, looking suspicious, came over to me. And I'll never forget, one of them said to me, I can listen to you preach anytime because you are real. And what the Spirit revealed to me at that particular point was, see, now they can relate to you. You're not just somebody who was there to just open up a Bible with some notes, to talk about some Bible characters. They could relate to you because you testified about some skeletons that had been in your closet, where the Lord had brought you from. It was at that time, my beloved brothers and sisters, that I felt that the Lord spoke to me, and I know He did in retrospect now, because of the impact this book is having. The Lord says, when you get back home, I want you to write a book based on John 1:6. Now, John 1:6 says there was a man sent from God. He was not the light. His name was John. He was not the light, but he was sent to bear witness of that light. And I got explicit and specific instructions from the Most High to write a book targeting the hearts of men. Obviously, we understand the important role and function in society that men have, right? And when men are out of place, we understand it does not bode well for society. So I understood the importance of the assignment. Based on John 1:6, the crux of the thesis would be men being bearers and witnesses of the light in all their sphere of influence, right? Whether it's on the job, at the gym, in the community, in marriage, in ministry, in business, wherever their sphere of influence is, they should be bearers and witnesses of the light. So in compliance and obedience, when I got back home, I started writing. I started typing the manuscript. And I had I had an encounter that almost cost me my life. I was at a traffic light one day, and it's not like I had to jam on the brakes and the car behind me couldn't stop and rammed into me. No, it wasn't like that at all. I got to the light, traffic slowed, I got to the light, I stopped. I must have stopped, was there for about 30 to 45 seconds. And out of nowhere, it felt like someone dropped a bomb on the car. Somebody smashed into the back of the car and just took off. And it was at that point I really realized the magnitude of the situation. Because I firmly believe that there are forces of darkness and forces of light operating in this world. Right? I personally believe that. And I believe that that was a force of darkness that caused that individual to smash into my car and take off, right? But because actually I was supposed to be returning back to Jamaica that year. And obviously I couldn't return because of my car getting rear-ended. And then in 2020, COVID came in. Ladies and gentlemen, I was tenacious in terms of obeying the mandate to write the book. Now, it's interesting because originally I thought I was going to title the book Bearers and Witnesses of the Light. But in speaking to my publisher, Mr. Laval Bell, he said, who's your target audience? I said, well, my target audience is men in general, but specifically men who are not in covenant fellowship with their Creator. And he says, well, what you should name it is Men Void of Light, Father, where are you? Now, we understand the importance of having a father in the household, right? Because I believe if it takes two to make him, it takes two to raise him. Now, I'm not saying that a single parent can't do a phenomenal job. I'm just saying it is better when you have both parents in a loving home raising the child. I believe the child or children have a greater opportunity for success in life. So it's really mostly targeted in the hearts of individuals who are not in fellowship, not in communion or covenant with their Creator, right? Men void of light, Father, where are you? Because we understand, especially in certain communities and demographics, the challenges now in society because of fatherlessness, right? So many children being reared in households where there is not that role male model. Fathers aren't just important in the lives of sons, obviously they're important in the lives of daughters, right? To be examples to a daughter of the kind of man that they should look to in terms of, if they decide to get married, right? One who is responsible, one who's going to love, protect, and be a caretaker. So this year, 2022, I was able to finish the book, and it launched the book. I've been sending it into prisons, and I tell you, I've been getting letters, I've been getting phone calls. The result has been phenomenal, ladies and gentlemen. So then the Lord gave me a vision with the book. He said, now what I want you to do, I want you to launch a campaign called Fishing for the Souls of Men. Keeping in mind, biblically, soul represents intellect, will, emotion. It is akin to the Hebrew word leb or labeh, spelled L-E-B, which represents the heart, the mind, the center of any being. So the instructions I received is fishing for the souls of men. And since the vision was given to me on the island of Jamaica, I am instructed to go back there to launch the movement first, fishing for the souls of men. I used to watch the show Mission Impossible way back when. Let me date myself. So the movement is Fishing for the Souls of Men, Mission Possible. March 2023, we're going to launch it on the island of Jamaica because that's where the vision was birthed. And then from there, we're going to be going into different other islands in the all over the United States, on the continent of Africa and Europe. It is going to be a global move. And this is why I'm reaching out to my audience now, my From the Eagle's View audience now, to get behind this book, to get behind this mission, and let's begin to spread more light. Look, no one has to tell you of the level of darkness that's in this earth. I got a report the other day, or I was told the other day, I'm not going to name where, but that a young man cut off his mother's head. Now, I don't want to gross you out, ladies and gentlemen, but when I was growing up, we used to hear about things that made us pause and look. But there's a level of darkness, a level of wretchedness that seems to be manifesting in the world today that's just different from previous generations. Just darkness seems to be increasing. You watch the news, you listen to the news, and the moment you're on social media, and the moment you think you have heard or seen footage of something atrocious, and it can't get any worse, some other news coming, that's even worse than before. And I think it's going to be a lot darker before it gets lighter. And that's why we're fishing for the souls of men. Men as heads of families, and the important role men play in society. And I really want you to get behind this book. On screen, you're going to see some information of how you can contact me. Hey, guess what? I would love to take a large team to Jamaica with me. And we definitely want men represented. God bless the woman. We love them. They're the crowning jewel of God's creation. They tend to be very, very faithful. But let's face it, a lot of times, especially where the church is concerned, you see a majority of women up front and then few men. We got to get back to the divine order that was established by the Creator and referred to in Genesis 1:26-28, where he said he made man in his image, in his likeness, male and female created he them, male and female created he them, right? He blessed them and he gave them dominion. And we see right from the beginning now, when you look at Genesis chapter 3, you see the male and female in an idyllic environment, and then evil infiltrates, and the woman is there, but we don't hear from the man, right? Men have been missing in action for too long in too many important areas of life. And it's time, men, it's time, ladies, for us all to work together now in unity, that we may shine the light of the Creator. Because that's why you're here. That's why you were made in His image, in His likeness. And He dwells in unapproachable light, right? He's full of light. There's no darkness. It is in the book of James where it says, every good and every perfect gift cometh down from above, from the Father of lights, with whom there is neither variableness nor shadow of turning. And when we were children, we learned this little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. So that's why, I've been in prison. I'm not ashamed to tell it. Nobody got to tell my story for me. I'm capable of telling it. So I know the level of darkness that's behind those walls. But I can tell you, my brothers and sisters, that this book has been doing phenomenal things. So as we get ready to go into the holiday season, I'm telling you, this would be a great gift for men, right? Brothers, I'm asking you to support it. And one of the things I'm asking all ladies to do is to get some copies and make sure the men in your life get a copy. Bless them with a copy. Keep a couple of copies with you, that as you go about your daily business, your daily routine, and if you're unctioned by the Most High and He shows you someone, a man, to bless with this book, then you can have it to bless them with, right? So, men void of light, Father, where are you? Let me point out something very interesting. In the book of Malachi, chapter 4, I'm speaking from a personal perspective, and maybe you can identify with this. In the Pentecostal charismatic churches, most of the time that I hear anyone read from the book of Malachi, it's always 3:10. Will a man rob God? Wherein have you robbed me? In tithes and offerings, therefore you are cursed with the curse, right? Bring all the tithes into the storehouse that my house may be full, right? Or that there be meat in my house, and I will open up the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing such as you could not receive. We're all familiar with it, right? I don't know about that curse with the curse thing, because I know we've been redeemed from the curse. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? In Malachi chapter 4, you actually find the crux of what this book is all about. You find what's important there is not talking about tithing or money. It's talking about fatherlessness. It's talking about returning the hearts of the father back to the children and vice versa. Because between Malachi, the last book in the Old Testament, of course, from the eagle's perspective, you'll hear a lot of biblical references, but it's not a religious show, because we're going to be dealing with a lot of different topics and subjects. But our foundation, obviously, we're not ashamed of that, it is biblical. So in the book of Malachi, last book in the Old Testament, from Malachi to Matthew, the first book, right, and in the Bible that we have here in the West, it's called the intertestamental period, right? Intertestamental period. So there are going to be 400 years that's going to pass where the voice of the Creator is not heard. So you would think that if there's going to be 400 years where the voice of the Creator is not going to be heard, well, we need to find out what is the last thing that he speaks in Malachi, right? Because if he's not going to speak again, or he did not speak again for 400 years, that means obviously any and everything that he says has weight and importance, but you want to drill down on that. He says, I will send one in the spirit of Elijah. That's Elijah the prophet. Who shall do what? Return the hearts of the father back to the children, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. So fatherlessness is like a curse. There's a disproportionate number of households where single, females are trying to rear the children. They didn't make the child by themselves, because the Immaculate Conception, that prophecy has already been fulfilled. So we're calling men to their rightful position. We're calling men, and we're going to go into this subject a lot more. We'll be interviewing men, right? Men who've been in prison, men who've been absentee fathers, but also definitely men who have made their mark in society, right? We're going to reach out to this demographic. We're going to reach out to the community of men, because we have to do something to stem the tide, especially of the gang violence that's plaguing so many of our cities. And a lot of these young men, they're just crying out for love. They have not had that example. A lot of them have not had fathers in the home. Mothers had to go on out to work, so they spend an inordinate amount of time, right, with no supervision. And then they wind up gravitating towards individuals who they feel they can look up to, pimps, maybe dope pushers, gangbangers, who are usually wearing certain type of clothes, have multiple women driving certain type of cars. So these become their role models, ladies and gentlemen. So we want to bring a different perspective. We want to bring a holistic perspective. And I'm telling you, I'm not just saying this because my name, Fidel Donaldson, is on this book. This book is divinely inspired. And what I'm going to do in one of the upcoming broadcasts, I will read some of the letters that I've gotten from prison. Let me give you another example. I got a call the other day from a federal institution, and an inmate was put on the phone, and he had been in segregation. He had been in the SHU. And while he was in there, he cried out, "Where are you?" He didn't know anything about this book. He just cried out, "Where are you?" in reference to God. When he got out of segregation, he was handed a copy of this book, and when he saw the title, tears began to well up in his eyes. He called home to share the experience with his wife because he felt he had had a divine encounter. Why? He saw the title, "Men Void of Light, Father, Where Are You?" Now let me say this to every man, to every person on the planet. There is a void in all of us, right? In certain places, right? We have dark thoughts, dark dreams. All of us have it, right? Because if you have come to a place where you're manifesting 100% light 100% of the time means you have reached a place of sinless perfection and you wouldn't be on this earth anymore. So let's just be honest. We have all kind of things vying, for our appetites, our soulless appetites, right? And we give in to certain things at certain times. So let's just be transparent. When we're talking about men void of light, we're talking about also humanity void of light. We're not just singling out men, but I wanted to target men because they're considered the head. And if you want to do something, you got to deal with the head, right? Because as the head goes, so goes the body, right? The brain is a computer, the mind that tells the body what to do. Men being the head, we wanted to target men. And we wanted to target the void places in the life of all men. And we want to establish the importance, ladies and gentlemen, of fatherhood, of walking in light. And we all have to take an honest assessment and say, in society, in the places that we're called to operate, are we manifesting, are we bearing witness of the light, or are we contributing to the darkness? No one has to tell you how important light is. When you go into a room and it's dark, we'll say pitch black in there, one of the first things you're reaching for is the light switch. This is why they always position the light switch, ladies and gentlemen, near the door. Because you want to be able to flood the room with light, because only light can drive out darkness. Darkness can't drive out darkness. Light drives out darkness, right? We understand the importance of the sun, the energy, the sustenance that it gives to us in the earth. Well, I'm going to be talking about divine light a lot, right? The light that comes from the Creator. The light that is supposed to be shed abroad in our hearts. And that's why I need you, my audience, to get behind this book, Men Void of Light. You can reach me on social media under my name, Fidel Donaldson, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Messenger, WhatsApp. Thank you again for joining me on this awesome broadcast from the Eagle's View. Shalom.